Good morning, everybody. Welcome back or to the channel. So later today, after I get home from work, we're going to be taking my truck up to my buddy's shop. I'm going to have him work on installing the brand new BDS Dual Shock Hoops on my 2016 Ram truck over here. Now, as I'm sure most of you have dealt with some ride quality issues with a lifted truck, but for those of you that have not, the problem that I'm having is that because I have a 8-inch suspension lift with a 3-inch body lift, I have done a lot of other things to the truck to control the geometry to make it ride better, but I still have a lot of rocking side to side on uneven roads. And basically, it's not a big deal, but when you're driving down an uneven road and you start bouncing around a lot, it just gets really annoying. And my overall goal is to improve the ride quality. I don't expect it to ever be perfect, but I do want to try to improve it so that it rides a lot nicer. So let's take a closer look at what I'm referring to. So if we come over here and see, I only have a single shock setup with the reservoir. Now again, this does ride pretty decent, but it doesn't ride great. Again, on a smooth road, I'm perfectly fine. But anytime I hit a back road or a country road that has a lot of bumps and divots in it, the truck starts rocking side to side. Now, I can only imagine, again, I'm not sure if this is the problem or not, because again, as many of you know, when you have lifted trucks and you're trying to figure out problems, a lot of it's just trial and error, trying different things and figuring out what works. So my thought process is if I start hitting a bumpy road and the truck starts to rock a little side to side, maybe these shocks are not strong enough to really keep the truck level. And what happens is once it starts rocking side to side, these shocks are not strong enough. And what happens is it just kind of keeps the truck rocking and bouncing around a little bit. Now, again, I'm not saying that that's the problem. I'm just saying that that's my thought process. So what we're going to be installing is the BDS Dual Shock Hoop. Now, what that does is it mounts behind my gap guard here. It actually mounts to your frame. It's a bar that mounts over top of here that actually has two mounting points, and we're going to have two shocks going down to the axle there. So that's going to be the first thing I'm trying this week, because I want to try things step by step to see what works and what doesn't work. So my goal today is to get the truck in the shop, get the BDS Dual Shock Hoops installed, test it out for a couple days and see how it rides. And then the next thing I'm going to be working on probably later this week or next week, I'm going to be replacing these radius arms here with a 4-link conversion kit. So stay tuned for that video because that'll be coming next. But again, today's goal is just to do the BDS Dual Shock Hoop and see how that improves the ride quality. So if you see over here, here they are right here. So that's the BDS brackets and there's the brand new shocks. But I pulled one out of the box to show you what it looks like. Man, these things are huge. Okay. That right there, this bar, the ends down here, okay, are going to mount up on the frame. And as you can see here, there's a dual shock setup right here that's going to be sitting over here. And then I have two shocks that are going to go down and mount down here to the bottom. Now, there are brackets that have to be welded, okay, to your axle for the shocks to actually attach, which is why I'm taking my truck up to my buddy's shop, just because I don't have the capabilities of welding brackets here. And I really don't even know how to weld. I'm sure I could figure it out, but there's just some things I'd rather leave it up to a professional to do because I don't want to take chances. So that's what we're going to be doing today. After work, I'm going to take my truck to my buddy's shop. I'm going to let him have it for a day or two just because he's very busy, but hopefully he could have that installed fairly quickly, and then I could get the truck back and then drive it around for a couple of days and see how the BDS Dual Shock Hoop has improved my ride quality. And then I'm going to have a mental note of that. Then probably next week when the 4 links come in, then I'm going to take my truck back to the shop, or I might attempt it myself, but it's probably a lot easier to take it back to the shop. Then I can have these radius arms removed, put the 4-lane conversion kit in there, and then if I'm taking it to my buddy's shop, I'll probably end up swapping out the tires and putting the old factory ones back on. That way he could pull this up on the lift and get it aligned properly. But again, the ride is good. It's just on a bumpy or a uneven road, the rocking gets really, really annoying, which if you paid attention to my last video when I did my upgraded Hellwig sway bar, I took you for a drive down the road and you could see me bouncing around in the truck. I did try the Hellwig heavy duty sway bar here. So I did try that. I am going to be doing a couple other things. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep these drop down brackets here or not, or if I'm just going to remove the drop down brackets, mount the sway bar up to the frame, and then just get longer end lengths to level everything out the way it should be. But ultimately, my goal is to make this truck ride a lot better. And then who knows, maybe next year I might start looking into a taller lift kit, going to a 10-inch lift kit, which keeping the body lift will put me at 13 inches, but we'll figure that out next year. But this year, I really just want to focus on getting this to ride better. So I'm going to be off to work here, and I'll be back here soon with an update. Okay, everybody, we just picked the truck up, so we're going to go ahead and take the truck on its first ride with the BDS Dual Shock Hoops. Now, I don't have the 4 links installed yet. I wanted to test out the Dual Shock Hoop before I installed the 4 links, just to see where the major improvements really came from. So let's go ahead and take it for its first spin. Now again, I don't expect the Dual Shock Hoop to do a ton. I'm just hoping that it kind of stabilizes the front end of my truck so that I'm not jerking around as much on some of these uneven roads, because I'm hoping that the extra shocks are going to help keep the truck a little bit more stabilized compared to only having 1 shock on each side, where the truck tends to bounce a little bit side to side. Then I'm hoping within the next week or so to be able to actually get the 4 links installed, and that should really make a big difference. I mean, obviously I'm still riding on some of these back roads where they're a little bouncy and jerky, so obviously I'm gonna bounce around a little bit, just because obviously if roads are uneven, you're gonna bounce around no matter what. But what I can say so far, it does feel a little bit tighter. It does feel a little softer, where when I didn't have the Dual Shock Hoops on, when I would hit bumps, you felt more of a jar. And now it feels just a little bit softer, and it feels better. I mean, I still jerk around a little bit on the road. You're not gonna be able to stop that. When you have an uneven road with a big truck and big tires, you're gonna bounce around a little bit. My main goal of the Dual Shock Hoop was, I don't expect to hit a bump and not bounce around a little bit. The goal is when I hit a bump and it rocks is for the shocks to stabilize the truck instead of it continuing to rock and bounce around. So far, I do feel a difference. I don't feel like the truck is rocking side to side as much as it used to. So that's a good thing. So again, this is all trial and error. I'm trying different things to see which modifications work the best. So when I put the heavy duty sway bar on, I felt a little bit more stability going around corners, but it didn't seem to do a whole lot for me on the main roads when I'm driving straight. The Dual Shock Hoops is helping from rocking around and bouncing around as much on these rocky roads. Then my 4-lane conversion kit just came in the mail today, so hopefully I'll get those installed maybe next week, and then we'll do a little testing to find out, does the 4-lane conversion kit increase my ride comfort compared to the radius arms that I have on there right now. So what we'll do is we'll jump into that hopefully maybe sometime next week if I get a chance. But so far, the ride quality on the BDS Dual Shock Hoop does seem to be a little tighter and does seem to help stabilize the truck more than when I just had these single shocks. Okay, so we are home. Let's take a closer look of the brand new BDS Dual Shock Hoop with the Fox 2.0s. Let's check them out. There we go. Look at that. So as you can see, that bracket right here is going to mount down on the frame here, comes up, mounts down on the main frame there. Now I did not have to cut through my fender liner because I have a body lift. But if you don't have a body lift, you're going to probably have to cut out a little piece of your fender liner right up there in the corner, because this bar is gonna poke that. And that's called out in the instructions. But again, because I have the body lift, it doesn't affect the bar. Then, as you can see down here, they have to weld on another bracket to your bracket that holds your original shock. So again, we had some heavy duty welds put on here, had everything painted to cover it from corroding and rusting out. So we got that done. And then as you can see here, that's where you're gonna mount the bottoms of both of your shocks. And then they mount as a dual mount right up there. So again, these are some really nice shocks. These are the Fox 2.0s, and I like the new label. It looks pretty nice. So again, is this something you could do yourself at home? Probably. It's not that hard. I mean, mounting in this main bar bracket here is just a matter of drilling a couple holes in the main frame and then using the supplied hardware to mount everything. It's not too hard. And then cutting through the fender liner. If you don't have a body lift, you'll probably have to do that for clearance. The main thing is just welding that bracket onto your bottom original bracket so that you have two mounting points for the second shock. That's the only part that's a little bit tough. But again, I don't have a welding machine to do that, so I did not even want to attempt it. So I just took it to my buddy's shop. He basically had all this stuff hooked up and installed, and everything went pretty good. There was no issues. Everything looks great. It rides great, and I can't complain. Now look at that. That looks a lot better than just having one single shock. So let's go check out the other side. There you go there. Same thing. Had to weld on the additional bracket for the second shock. Got that welded and painted. Everything's all good. Brand spanking new. Everything's mounted real nice. Again, I did not have to cut the actual fender liner because the body lift cleared that. Now, I would say this. I have seen somebody else do this. If you don't have a body lift and you're doing a dual shock hoop and you don't want to cut through your fender liner, I can't remember if it's the back or the front. I think it actually might be the back. You have to cut up here. If you don't want to cut that, I've actually seen people take a blowtorch or maybe a heat gun and heat up the liner area where you're supposed to cut and then just push on it. Basically, if you heat up that plastic enough and push on it, you can actually mold it into a round shape to where it'll clear the bar without actually cutting a hole. That's one thing I would recommend doing because I don't like the idea of cutting a hole in your fender liner because then more water and mud and sludge is going to get up through that hole and gunk everything up behind it. So what I'd say is if you don't have a body lift, I'd recommend using a heat gun and try to get that liner molded into the shape to clear the bar instead of cutting it. So that's it right there. But so far it looks really good, and it does ride a little nicer. It feels a little bit more stable. I'm not bouncing around as much, which is always a good thing. And then we'll be good to go. Now the next thing that I want to work on within the next week or so is to get these radius arms pulled out of there and replaced with a 4-link conversion kit that I have. It just came in the mail. You can kind of see it over there on the floor. There's the actual links, and then I have the brackets in the box. So those are here. They just came in the mail. So we'll see if I have time to do it myself. Maybe I'll attempt to do it myself. If he has time and his schedule opens up, I might put it back in the shop to have him do it just because of time. Because again, I'm really busy with work and all these other things that I have going on, that finding time to give a whole day to something like that, I just don't really have the time right now. And being that the weather is not really cooperating, we're actually supposed to get some snow here this weekend. With my work schedule and the weather, it's just not exactly easy to work out here on the ground, which I prefer just to put it in the shop. But if the weather's cooperative and I have some time next week, maybe I'll work on it. But again, the purpose of getting the 4 links in here in place of the radius arms is really just to help center my axle better, get my camber and everything corrected so my axle is centered perfectly, make sure my coils are perfectly straight up and down, and that'll at least give me a little bit of flexibility so when I'm riding, everything's going to ride a little bit nicer compared to the harsh ride that you typically get with a radius arm. But for today, I mainly just wanted to work on the BDS Dual Shock Hoop, which I'm really impressed with. It looks awesome. It rides a little bit better, which is ultimately what I was going for. Again, the BDS Dual Shock is not that expensive. So again, I have just around $800 tied up in the BDS Dual Shock Hoop with 4 brand new Fox 2.0 shocks for an 8-inch lift. So far, I'm impressed and I'm really happy with my purchase. So that's it for today's video, guys. I hope this video kind of helps you out. Again, if you're looking for improved ride quality in your lifted truck, I would highly recommend checking out the BDS Dual Shock Hoop, because it's going to give you added support and stability for your off-road vehicle. Again, if you're lifting a big truck like this up that high, one shock, it'll do the job, but it's not going to do the job great. I would recommend spending a little bit of money and getting a dual shock hoop put in. It's only going to make your ride quality that much better. So again, that's it for today's video. I hope you like this video. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button and like this video. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comment section and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And also, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel because it definitely helps me out and I greatly appreciate it. So that's it. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. I truly appreciate you all. Thank you. And as always, see you in the next video.